As I continue to reiterate, the point of this channel is to start you on guitar from day one and to lead you up to where you want to be as a player, however many years that takes. With that in mind, I'd like to remind you once again, if you're a beginner who's just showing up, please go onto the playlist and start right back at the beginning. We're somewhere around less than 110 on guitar right now, which would be well over 2 years, maybe 3 or 4 years even down the road for you. So depending on where you are with your playing, this may not be for you at all. But since I'm talking about pentatonic scales and since everybody loves them and they're so useful on guitar, I just want to continue with this a little bit right now. Hopefully you can see how almost useless this picture is to you. This shows you all of the pentatonic shapes in order. Say I started on G with this shape number 1. This is Pentatonic Minor. The next note of that scale can give me a position 2. Those are all the same notes, so it's still G minor pentatonic. So this is position 2 of that scale. However, this note also substitutes and serves as the major scale. So this could be position 1 in a major. You can hear the major quality there. Going to the second note of that scale, we have a third position. And then a fourth and a fifth, and when you get to 5, you're back on number 1 again. Scale position 3 was always my nemesis. I never liked this one. As I came playing up the neck, it was really nice to slide into 2, play that little pyramid, and head back into the minor position number 1. In 3 though, I didn't like this stagger of having this augmented second on one string, having to step back a fret on the next string, and then playing this tube. Over the years though, I've started to really learn to love it. A while ago we were talking about how you could take one portion of the scale and play an octave. When you land on that octave, replace that note and start over. This tube or column in position 3 serves as the same thing. If we go back into position 1, we find this nice box, 3rd fret to 5th, 3 times in a row. The middle note of that is the root. If I'm in G minor pentatonic, I can play these 3 strings, focusing on the middle string with my ring finger. There's the G note. So I got a nice flat 7 on the same string, and a flat 3 above it. And it wraps up quite nicely. This starts on the C note, the 4th of the scale. So if I go find that note again, I can play the same column with G in the same location. So that column is a beautiful little move actually. It's also a nice extension if I'm in major. If I started in the major scale, I could hit the first note of the major scale and then move into the column. That would put me at the 6th fret here, 6, 8, 5, 8 if I stayed in scale shape 2, or I can use that 6, go to 8 and a bunch of 10s. So here's the 6 of the major. As always, we can hear My Girl. A younger version of myself would never have done that. I didn't want to change positions. I like to be able to play looking away and never look at my hands and know exactly where I am at all times. Shifting makes that a little more difficult. It can be done though, and it's actually not that necessary. Looking at your hands is actually quite helpful when you're playing. I can come up from the minor into it. I could play some minor. And leap to it. I can be playing major. treat it almost like a 2-fret roll move that I did earlier in the minor. On these lower strings, slide out into that column. It's also beautiful, as we saw last time, if I'm playing scale position 4, that's the root on the 5th string. And I want to step back behind the root. It's a really nice way to play behind that scale. I'm going to slip back to the E, put scale 4 on the E note again, like I did in the last video. So here's scale 4. With the minor root on the 5th string. When we saw some licks from Cocaine, we saw some scale 4 licks. But there's also licks back in the 3rd position. You can go all the way home to O and 2, as Clapton would, but those 2 notes are in the 3rd position here too. Hendrix's Purple Haze, as we saw, starts with scale 4 lick, but then steps into scale 3, pops back to these notes. There's either scale 3 or scale 4 with that root we were just talking about sitting here in the middle of it. After a couple of those licks, he actually plays a little longer in scale 3. There's scale 2 again. Back into 4, right before the chords. So what of the top of it? Since I'm sitting in E, I'll stay there right now. We step back, do the augmented, scale shift up, do the augmented again, and then the top notes. I just don't love shifting back here. That's a small price to pay to be able to use this really cool column, which will also house our blue notes as well for us. Right on the bottom of this scale. Here's the look of that stretched out section. These 2 notes put on the 2nd string. Then 2 notes from the 2nd string here are now on the 3rd, shifted back. So they look really nice there actually. Let's put this still in E. If I'm in this scale, the root is here. And the other thing I really like is when I'm taking a transitory look at it, if I played in scale position 1 here, enjoyed my shift into my pyramid, or that coat hanger. Scale 3 also gives me another nice geometric shape to hit. Here's my pyramid again. As I travel up the neck and I do my 2-fret rule out of there, I can replace that note and get this beautiful diagonal. In E, that's actually the E chord. It's an E minor or an E7 with a sharp 9. That's where the notes are in the Hendrix chord. That little diagonal line is actually the left side of scale number 4. As we move along to 5 and then 1 again. But in scale 3, it's a beautiful high end of the notes. It's also a nice home for the blue note. As we saw in Sunshine of Your Love, we have a blue note stuck between the 4th and 5th there. This scale is on the 4th, so we have a blue note here, actually, and here, which is a really nice place to start off with as well. So we're in E. So that little blue note on the 6th string is a really nice place to find it. And it hangs out on the 4th string as well. If I'm up here with my pentatonic scale position 1 shape, that's this thing hanging on top. We got the blue note on top of it. So given my pyramid and the diagonal line I want, that blue note will get me through there nicely. You can use it to transition the area. Since I have to slide through there, it's nice to know the blue note's there to accommodate that.